Hello, thank you for joining us today. We're talking about Windows Server 2012 and the fact that it's now gone end of life. Likewise, other Microsoft products are set to go end of life within the next 2 years. Today from boxxe, we have Michelle Coop and we have Fraser Price. We've still got customers that are using Windows Server 2012. What can they do to mitigate any risk?
It's now gone end of life. I think the easiest option has been the ESUs, so the extended support licenses from Microsoft, in the same way that with 2008, that was the same case. What people need to be thinking about is actually future-proofing and thinking about the future for their estates. The easiest option at the moment, like I've said, is to talk about ESUs and purchase those licenses. The other options that they need to be thinking about are that transition to a later version on their server estate, or even the considerations around cloud and transitioning to the cloud.
We don't want our customers to be in a position in another 8-10 months' time that they're in now, which is where they don't have any support for their operating systems that they're running on, and they've got business critical applications, and they're almost frightened to turn the servers on in the morning. We want them to be in a position where they have a plan for the next 6 months, 8 months, that allows them to function for the next 5 years.
So what migration options have our customers got?
I think migration options are quite broad. Every customer will have a slightly different way of migrating for the next 6 to 8 months. A lift and shift migration to Azure is an option that some people are sort of taking advantage of because of the extended support that you immediately get by taking that option, but it's not always right. From our perspective, understanding what's right for you as an organisation is the most important thing. It can vary from whatever customer background you are. So
the first step is actually to put a plan in place. Think about your future. Think about the next 5 years. I think the ESU is quite a quick solution. It keeps the updates running. As we've seen with 2008, Microsoft released those for 3 years. Okay, fair enough, they extended it for a year. But in January 2024, the 2008 ESUs will no longer be there. And a similar pattern will happen with 2012. I think the ESU is a short-term fix. It gives you the updates. It secures that environment for the next 3 years. But what happens after that and what's beyond that? And I think boxxe can help around looking at your estate, building a plan, take an assessment of the applications and the services that are actually running in. One of the things that I've noticed is that legacy of infrastructure. So I think cloud is definitely something to consider, but it won't fit everybody.
So what is possible for companies wanting to future-proof their server infrastructure?
Microsoft are pushing forward with this rhetoric of we need to stop support for operating systems as early as possible. And that's to force customers into keeping up to date with what they're running on their infrastructure. And I think the most important thing there is that we go through that transformation with our customers to ensure that they stay more up to date than they have done. The reality is that Server 2012, this end of support period, is a big problem industry-wide. We need to ensure that it's not such a big problem when Server 2022 comes to end of life. Let's plan for the next 5 years, and we know that another operating system is going to be launched in the next 5 years for server. So
I think one of the biggest things that we've noticed, particularly as 2008 will be ending extended support in January 2024, is that 2012 was actually a really stable operating system and they're comfortable with it. So there's a nervousness to transition. I think also as well, there's a lot of legacy infrastructure. So a lot of old servers that maybe are not compatible with 2022. Behind that, there will be a cost to replace that infrastructure. So again, I think the option of looking at those cloud options, I'm not saying they're right for everybody, but certainly contemplating whether or not you move into the cloud. 2012 will probably follow a 3-year pattern.
Yep.
And we're putting a sticky plaster, effectively. Yep. We're taking an option and actually at a cost, spending a lot of money on those ESUs, adding on top of those server licenses. So I think planning is key.
Okay. So what do companies need to do? boxxe's help.
Call us. You know, we're going through this with numerous customers at the moment. It is a hot topic. We're not looking at that plaster. We don't want to just put the plaster on there of the ESU. We want to talk through your estate. We want to look at your infrastructure. We want to help you to plan for the next 5 years.
The next 6 to 12 months can really define that 5-year period that Michelle talks about. And boxxe will take a holistic view of your infrastructure. We've got so many options to enable you to have a secure infrastructure now and plan for the next 5 years.
Customers are very different, but then customers are also similar.
Yeah.
And not one thing will fit every customer. It's looking at the options and working with us to look at those options available to you. And that might even be a hybrid environment. It may be looking at the infrastructure, upgrading your infrastructure, moving to the latest version, and also transitioning an element of that to the cloud as software as a service.
Thank you very much for your time. It's been brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you.